everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be getting into this new palette from Tom Ford. I finally got my hands on this. I kind of go through my process of buying this in the application portion of the video, but I finally got my hands on it. This is the Red Harness palette, and this is the shade in Illuminate. I've always wanted one of these palettes, and I finally got it in my hands. I'm super excited about it. Picked this up on the Nordstrom's website for $155. Yes, it's expensive. She's expensive, but Tom Ford, we all know, is very expensive. And so I wanted to come on here, play around with it, use it. I'm actually going to be wearing this for the next couple of days because it's $155. I don't really want to use it one time and come on here and tell you it's a great palette. I feel like I really need to wear it more. So I'm going to wear it throughout the weekend, and in my final thoughts, I will come back after wearing it for a couple days and give you my thoughts on it. As we know, Tom Ford launched 4 of these palettes, and I really was looking at Rose Cashmere. I thought Rose Cashmere, as far as the shades go of the eyeshadow, was really pretty, but I didn't know how the bronzer would work on my skin tone, so I passed on that one. These palettes are designed for skin tone. So the Rose Cashmere is the lightest of the 4, and it is 0.5 intensity of the Tom Ford scale. So it's going to be designed for a lighter skin tone. So that's the reason why I didn't buy it. I am a medium with like a golden undertone, and I just didn't feel like that palette would work for me skin-wise. But the eyeshadows are so pretty. Like, I love that really pretty corally color there on the top. It's so beautiful. The next one is the Red Harness, which is intensity 1. And this one is for like light medium to medium skin tone, which we will get into that. I will let you guys know if I feel like this palette is good for my skin tone. Next palette is intensity 2, and it is the Moonlit Violet. And this one looks beautiful, and I think it would be really beautiful on like tan to darker skin tone. Oh, so pretty. And then we finally have the darkest of them. It is intensity 3, and it is the Moss Agate. And as you can see, that would definitely be perfect for those of you who have darker skin tone, especially that blue. That blue is just beautiful. It's like an oceanic blue. And I'm really curious what that shade would look like on a darker skin tone. A darker skin tone can just wear blues so beautifully. It just pops on dark skin. So I was really happy to see that they chose a blue shade like that to put in the darker skin tone palette. So like I said, these right now as I'm filming, which is Friday today is Friday the 17th of July. So as of now, all 4 of these palettes are currently available on the Nordstrom's website. If I find them anywhere else, I will leave a link to all of them in the description box down below in case you want to shop somewhere else besides Nordstrom. But right now I'm basing it off of the Nordstrom website. So let's go ahead and jump into the tutorial of me kind of playing around with this palette. But there are a few shades in here that I'm not really liking. And when you pay $155 for a palette, you want to like every shade. So I think that's the reason why I feel like I just need a few more days to kind of play around with it before I give you my thoughts. And there's no rush. They've been out for a while, in and out of stock. People grab them as quick as they can, and then they're gone again for like a month, and then they come back. And so I'm not in a hurry to get this video up, so I definitely want to play with it for a little bit longer. Let's go ahead and jump into the application, and then we'll get into some comparisons, and then I will get into my final thoughts after I have played around with it for a couple days. So without further ado, let's jump right into the application. So I don't have any makeup on other than foundation, concealer, and brows done. That's it. Now I did put down some P. Louise eyeshadow base on my eyelids because I do that all the time. I am going to grab my bronzer brush, which I just cleaned it off on a rag. It's not clean, but it's kind of clean. You know what I mean? And I'm going to grab this shade right here. Is it showing up? I might have to use a different brush. This is a brand new brush. This is the Rougher number 5. Is it because I'm used to the Charlotte Tilbury? I don't know. I'm just not getting much pigment from it. It's shiny though. It's got some shine to it. Ooh, she's shiny. Ooh. Maybe that Refer brush just wasn't the brush to apply this with. This is a bronzer on my skin tone that I need to layer. At the end of the day, it just has to be layered because I'm finally starting to get some bronze and it just took me a minute to get it there. Do you think I dare put some of this on as blush? Should I? I'm gonna try it. Okay, so I'm gonna dip just a tiny bit. I'm scared. That's pretty, actually. It kind of gave it some life. Gave me a little shine, which I can calm that down with some powder, but that's not bad. I mean, it doesn't look bad. It's kind of shiny though, which I don't know that I love that over my cheeks because it's a little bit shiny. It's not meant to be a blush, peeps. So I'm going to calm it down some with some powder. So I'm going to grab some of my Hourglass powder. Now let's go in with the highlighter. So I'm gonna grab my highlighter brush. I think the highlighter is so pretty. I've been excited to use this because it does seem like it has a nice like peachy gold undertone, which I'm very excited about. Yeah, that's pretty. The highlighter is really pretty on my skin tone. It's definitely like a really pretty peachy gold. So this is what it's looking like. I will say I was kind of hoping that bronzer was going to be a little bit more pigmented. So I recommend, if you're my skin tone and you have the red harness, I recommend using a smaller brush like I did. You know, if you're like me and you like using a bigger brush, I feel like it needs something to grab it and it needs a little bit more of a compacted, more dense brush to kind of pick it up and pull it in. So let's go ahead and jump into the eyes. I'm super excited to like dive in and kind of play with these 4 shades in here. I'm going to go in with this shade first. I want to see the intensity of this red shade. I'm going to use my Sonia G, what is this called? Mini Booster. And I'm just going to like slowly place this in the crease. Kind of see how far we can build up the intensity on this. I don't want it to get too red, too dramatic, because I kind of want to play with the other shades, but this formula just blends, man. Blends, blends, blends. And it's a very unique shade, this red one in particular, because I don't think I have anything quite like this in my collection. I'm always looking in the monitor to make sure I'm in focus because sometimes my camera will like pick up my mirror and focus on my mirror or something and not my eye. I'm like, stop doing that. Gosh, that's a pretty shade. Like that's even a pretty shade to kind of just pop in the crease and out the door you go. And I'm going to switch to the Refer number 2 brush and I'm going to bring that on my lower lash line. It's such a pretty shade. It doesn't take that much effort to kind of just put it on and blend it out. So far, so good. Switch brushes to the Builder Pro from Sonia G. And I want to go into this purple shade. I'm going to just place this right out here and kind of get some depth out on this outer corner. I'm going to go back into that red shade and kind of use the red shade to kind of blend out the purple. I'm gonna go into this highlight shade and oh damn, that shade is so pretty. I think this is probably my favorite shade in the palette. Like this peachy highlight is gorgeous. It is so pretty. I knew I wanted to put it on the lid because it's just gorgeous. And then I'm going to go into the red and do the exact same thing. Kind of put the red over top of that purple and kind of, I don't know, I'm just playing, you guys. I'm never one to plan my looks. I've had people ask me that, like, you know, before you get on and film, do you go ahead and plan your looks? And I really don't. I just start playing. So now I'm gonna switch to a brush like this, and I'm gonna go into the purple. I'm gonna smoke that outer corner on the lower lash line with that purple. Have you guys seen Mel's video? I haven't watched it for a while. She got these right when they came out. If you guys haven't seen Mel Thompson's video of her using these, I think she had 3 of these palettes at that time. Her looks were everything. Like, her talent is just unbelievable. I love the way that red blends into the brow bone. It fades in such a beautiful, natural way. And I've went into it and kind of build up the depth and just continue to kind of build it gradually. And that's the key about this baked formula, is that it's like you can just really build it. And it's much more pigmented than you think, but it's so amazing the way that it builds, but it also builds the depth. I'm going to go into this top shade right here, and I'm going to highlight my inner corner with that shade just to see how light it is. I might want to wet it because it's not really doing much. Let's show you, like right here. Like, it looks really pretty in the pan, but as you blend it out, it doesn't have a lot of color to it. So it's got shimmer, but with no color. So I'm going to take a different pencil brush, and I'm going to go into this shade right here. I am going to spray it with like a luminous setting spray, just so that I can try to get some pigment from it. If you want that shade to sparkle, that's what I would recommend. I don't love that shade. I kind of was hoping that shade was going to be a little bit more brighter, or even a little bit more silvery. So I put the rest of my makeup on. I threw on a pair of lashes, which were a little bit bigger than I thought they were going to be, but it is what it is. As far as my lipstick goes, I pulled out one of my favorites from Tom Ford, which is in the shade Indian Rose. It is just one of my favorites. I'm out of it. I need to order it. But I recently got this sample in the mail. I can't remember where I got it from, but this is the Indian Rose, and it is just the prettiest, like, pinky mauve color. I love it. I used to wear it pretty much on a daily basis. It was my only Tom Ford lipstick I ever owned, and I just loved this shade. The shade is just really pretty. Now that I'm wearing it again, I'm like, oh, I need to get the full size because I really miss that shade. But anyway, so now that we've made it through the application, let's go ahead and jump into the comparisons, and then I'll get into my final thoughts. Okay, so let's jump into the few images that I took of this palette, and then also compared to the 2 Tom Ford palettes that I have in my collection. So the first image up here on the screen is this palette. Obviously, the 2 larger shadows, like the highlighter and the bronzer, are the first 2. The first image is with no flash, and then this image shows with a flash, so you guys can kind of see the intensity of some of those shades. So this next set of image, I wanted to compare it. Again, I don't have much comparisons when it comes to Tom Ford. The only 2 palettes I have from Tom Ford is the Body Heat and Loon. I don't know. I have no idea. But these are the only 2 palettes that I have from Tom Ford, and they're really beautiful. This one is my favorite. Love this palette. I love this palette. And I think it's because I love the shades. I love the taupe. I love this really pretty white silver. So up here on the screen is the image next to this white one. And this shade right here, you will notice, is just so bright and white and shimmery and so beautiful. And I think that's what I was expecting when I saw, you know, this palette. I didn't expect it to be that white, but I expected this shade to be much more shimmery than it is. As you can see in this swatch, the first shade is just not shimmery at all. So if you were wanting to use that as an inner corner highlight, I mean, it just doesn't show up. It really doesn't. Maybe applying with your finger, you're going to get the most impact from that shade. I would say this palette is much more shimmery. It's got much more of an impact than this palette does. The next set of images is this palette next to the Body Heat. And, you know, as you can see, so when you look at these palettes side by side, you know, this shade, I was wondering how it would compare to this shade. And then also this kind of purpley shade next to this purpley shade. So I thought it would be kind of curious for those of you that have the Body Heat palettes. You guys could see what the red harness looks like next to the Body Heat. So up here on the screen is the image of these palettes next to each other. And I would say they're very similar, only that that pink red shade in the red harness palette is a little bit lighter of the red from the Body Heat, but the purples are very similar. The purple shade is almost exact. Also the light shimmer shade, so this one right here, is also very similar to the white shimmer shade and the red harness, but I think you get more of an impact from this shade in the Body Heat. So with that said, I think if you have the Body Heat, you probably really don't need the red harness. That's kind of my perception. Now that we have like the comparisons, the only small comparisons that I can do, let's go ahead and jump into my final thoughts. Okay, so right off the bat, I really need to play with this palette. I'm not exactly sure how I feel about the bronzer. I might use it again throughout this weekend before giving you guys my full thoughts. I don't really feel like I can give you guys my final thoughts just yet because I'm on the fence about this palette. So I think what I'll do is I'll just stop the video here and I will continue to kind of play around with the palette and play with it throughout the weekend. And then I'll come back and, you know, give you my thoughts on it. But right now, I just don't feel like I can give you my 100% like stamp of approval. So I'm going to continue to wear it and I will come back and give you my full thoughts after I've worn it for a couple days. So I will see you guys then. I am back to give you guys my thoughts on this palette from Tom Ford. The last time we spoke, I wanted to come back on camera after wearing it a couple of days and then give you guys my final thoughts on it. I really just did not feel comfortable giving you my thoughts on it based on using it one time. It's too expensive and I feel like that's just kind of a disservice to you guys. And I respect you, I love you, I respect your hard-earned money, and I want to make sure that I know exactly how I feel about a product before I come on here and tell you. And sometimes there's just certain products that you can't just use it once and say, I love it. There are two shades in this palette that I absolutely love and I have nothing like it in my collection. The first shade is the actual highlighter in the palette. I love this highlighter, you guys. It is one of my favorite highlighters. It's got a peachy undertone, but also still at the same time that beautiful creamy vanilla look to it. So it just glides onto the skin in such a beautiful way. Like, I absolutely love this highlighter. I don't have anything like it. I don't have a lot of highlighters, but based on what I have in my collection, I don't have anything like this. So I'm really excited about that. I've already spoke about this shade. It's very lackluster. It just doesn't have a lot of pop to it. And my thing is, like, I get more out of my shimmer shades from like Flower Beauty or my drugstore products. This just does not have that much shimmer. It just is kind of bland. It kind of fades away into the skin. There's not much to it. So I don't love this shade. It's not my favorite shade. This shade I think is really pretty. I don't wear that real strong gold coppery tones that much, but I still like it. I do think it's a very beautiful shade and it does have some nice impact. I will probably use this shade more in like the fall time because it is such a coppery brown shade, but even though it's a coppery brown, it doesn't have a lot of impact. It doesn't have a lot of like umph to it. It does, but it doesn't. I've seen a lot better shades in the copper brown tones than this one. That's more impactful. And it also depends on what you're looking for. Are you looking for that beautiful shine, or are you wanting something that's got a little bit of a shine, but it's very soft? So it depends on what we like as well. We're all different. This is my second favorite shade. I have it on my eyes all over, and then I popped a little teeny bit of this in the center. Love this shade. This is like nothing I have, and I love it because it's that really pretty rust color. So this shade is very similar to the one shade in the Body Heat. So if you have the Body Heat, I don't know that you necessarily need this entire palette. This is probably my least favorite shade out of the entire palette. And the reason for that is it's a cool toned, shimmery bronzer. And I like a warm tone bronzer. So it's unique because it's a cool tone bronzer that has that shimmer to it. And it does get a little bit darker as you wear it. Like as it warms up to the skin, it does get a little bit more depth to it. But I would have preferred this to be a little warmer. Sometimes with a cool tone bronzer on my skin tone, I have to be careful because it has to be the right formula for it to not look muddy on my warm skin tone. I think because I am used to a warm tone bronzer, and then when I went into with a cool tone bronzer and it also has a shimmer to it, it was really hard for me to warm up to the idea of enjoying it. So if you like a warm tone bronzer, I don't think you're going to like the bronzer in this Tom Ford Shade Illuminate palette. I don't know that this is going to be like the perfect shade for you. For me, it's just too cool toned, and it does have a beautiful shimmer. And, you know, I went in with it twice today, but I really had to put some blush on to really kind of pull it together because this is not a type of bronzer that you can wear without a blush for me. So yesterday I put on just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of makeup because I've been running around the house all day. And I had to put blush on. I wanted to just put a bronzer on, which is normally what I will do sometimes when I just want a little bit of makeup on. I will just throw the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer and kind of lightly bring it into the cheek to kind of give some color there, but not have to worry about putting blush on. Don't get me wrong. The thing that I do like about his shadows is that they're pigmented and they last all day. I actually was gone all day Saturday. My husband and I went walking around the Parade of Homes in northern Utah, and we were gone all day, in and out of the heat, in and out of the heat all day. And I didn't touch up my makeup one time that day. And my eyeshadow looked so beautiful when I got home because it's the Tom Ford formula. I mean, his is just, it's a very long lasting, very pigmented formula. In order to justify $155, you really need to love every shade in here. Like love and wear every shade. If you look at this palette online, let's just say that you'll probably never wear the gold, or you may never wear the purple, I wouldn't buy it if it was me. In order to justify the spend, for me personally, I need to love and wear every single shade. Now, yes, I'm going to keep this because, you know, there's just no point in sending it back. It'll just go to waste. I will keep it because there are things that I love about it. But if I had to do it over, I wouldn't have bought it. That's kind of where I'm at right now. And the cool toned shimmery bronzer, it's going to have to be the right skin tone. I think this would be really pretty on an olive skin tone, but if you're an olive warm, if you have warm in your skin and you like a warm bronzer, this is not going to be the bronzer for you. So I hope that this analysis and this video and everything was helpful for you guys. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me in today's video. I hope that you guys all have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys all in my next video. Love you. Bye.